Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our discipline dialogue for the English and Communication programs here with Ivy Tech Community College and our dual credit programming. My name is Dr. Mark Schneider. It's good to have all of you here. I am the AVP of K-14 Academic Initiatives and Support. So we help, my job is to help oversee the academic side of the house for all of our dual credit programming across the state, our 3,000 dual credit teachers, our 95,000 dual credit students, 500 high schools, very large numbers that you can imagine. So it's great to have all of you here. Joining me today is Rachel, our English and COMM Academic Advisory Committee member with the Indianapolis campus. Rachel, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Rachel Barrett Knight. I have been at Ivy Tech for 10 years, and I've been the chair for English, Humanities, and World Languages at the Indianapolis campus for about 4.5 years now. So it's nice to see you all today.
Good. Well, thank you, Rachel, for joining us today. I'll be asking Rachel some questions. We'll be having kind of a Q&A, but try to make it more of a conversation. If at any point you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to come off mute or raise your virtual hand, and we'll be happy to call upon you for it. Also, just as a reminder, or this probably is new information for everyone, we are having what the college is calling NACEP November. So NACEP is our accreditation body, and we are beginning our self-study this academic year. We are in the process of reaffirmation or reaccreditation. So some of you who have been veteran dual credit instructors probably remember what the college was like and everything with dual credit was like before we got NACEP accreditation 5 years ago, and maybe even 10 or 12 years ago, and how it's really kind of we've really professionalized and lifted up a lot of our practices across the state. We are getting ready to go through all of that process again. All that to say, we do need examples for our submission of great syllabi, great projects, great assignments. We have to have teachers be a part of a peer review meeting where peer reviewers ask them questions about it. If you're interested at all in being a part of that, there's no obligation, but if there's any interest in it, please send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat here and in just a second, and we'll make sure to put you on the list for that. Also, other fun fact before we dive into the Q&A, I don't know if this is still the case, but I think at one time, Rachel had the most dual credit teacher assignments in the state. So the most, which I don't know if that's an honor or how you would want to take that, Rachel. But Rachel sees a lot of dual credit instructors, does a great job. We are very fortunate to have her not only as a faculty member, but also part of our academic advisory committee. So Rachel has seen a lot and continues to work and do a lot of things for our dual credit program. So we're very thankful for that. So we have some just kind of general questions. Some of these lend themselves more to the CTE space. Some kind of lend themselves to the liberal arts space, but these are questions we got from dual credit teachers from across the state. So Rachel, one thing that we kind of been leading off with is in the fall here, we have curriculum committee meetings. So for those on the K-12 side, all of our programming curriculum is driven by the faculty. It's not driven by the administration or anything like that. And so some committees meet once a year, some meet 3 every semester, or fall, spring, and summer. English, I believe, has the English one had their meeting, Rachel? And if they have, is there any updates from the space that maybe overlaps with dual credit? And maybe there's no update for the group.
No, actually, I think it's really important for our dual credit faculty to know that we actually do assessments in English 111 in particular. So if you're an English 111 instructor, part of what we try to do even is we actually do like a statewide assessment of the researched argument paper. So we're getting ready this year to collect samples again. So this is a sample collection year. And what it is that if one of the reasons sometimes we talk about Ivy Learn with you all and encourage you to consider using Ivy Learn is like, that's how we get samples from everyone's classes is they actually go and they search all English 111 classes and they search for research argument papers, and then they pull them kind of randomly. And so we get a sample across every campus in the state. And ideally, if we've got dual credit faculty who are also contributing and having their students submit their final essays in there, then we get to use those as part of the sample size as well and see how, kind of we're looking then across like 6 different areas. So we're looking at things like focus, how well our students focused on, the issue that they picked for this argument paper. Another is about organization. How well did they organize their ideas? Another is just documentation, like how well are they documenting their ideas and using like proper APA or MLA formatting. Another is about support. How well are they supporting their ideas? Another is about critical thinking, as we want them to be demonstrating strong critical thinking skills. And then the last one's actually I think we call it conventions, but like our students writing in a way that align with their sort of like, using clear grammar rules and it's easy to follow and punctuation is in good places and different things like that. So those are the areas that we kind of assess, and it's not like a grading scale as much as we have a rubric of like, they're above average, they're meeting standards, they're a little below standards, or they're really not meeting the standards here for this class. And we use kind of that as a guide. So if you're interested in making sure that your students are part of that sample, I would, I'm happy to answer questions, but also like if you reach out to your dual credit contact at your campus, like they would also be able to help. Or if you're interested in being part of the rating process, we actually start the rating process in the spring. And so we each get about 10 papers and we just rate them across these 6 areas on the scale of 4 points. And so if that's something you're interested in being a part of, that's something coming up in our curriculum committee that we're really working on that I think impacts especially our dual credit if that's of interest. And I feel bad because I know COMM and English are together here, and my COMM folks, I see you. I'm sorry, I don't know if there's a statewide assessment for you. But I will find out. How about that? I'm gonna ask about it. I'll have us put it out there.
After I ask the next question, I'll look it up real quick and see if there is one. I do appreciate Rachel talking about that, the essay being part of their common assessment. One thing to keep in mind with that, and this overlaps with a lot of other things that the college does, is, if you are willing to provide us a sample, like we're not trying to, get a gotcha, be like, oh, like this is, like look at this, like not good or anything like that. Like we are really just, for all intensive purposes, our dual credit courses are the exact same as what's being taught on campus. And so we just want to get a good cross section of on-campus assessments, dual credit assessments, and just make sure that what the learning objectives are for that particular course are being met. And, it would not surprise me one way or the other if, like the random sample that was pulled, if the dual credit essays were scored higher than the on-campus essays. That is a distinct possibility, or it could be the other way around. We're not trying to, sometimes people are a little apprehensive to dive into that. It's really just, we want to make sure that our students are learning what, the course objectives are. So we appreciate anyone who would, volunteer for that.
And as Mark highlighted, I think all of it's anonymous. Like all the information about the students gets removed in the process. And what we actually do with that information is we track and see like what areas were stronger or weaker compared to the last time we did the assessment. And we use that to do like some development and professional like conversations around like how are we addressing this area, or what can we be doing to improve that in the future.
So then, Rachel, kind of going into the next thing, which just kind of overlaps with what you said, but are there any, and this kind of varies from program to program, like are there any major differences from the high school curriculum and kind of like what's done on the state standard requirement, and then maybe what is done in the college classroom and the college curriculum. Is there any, like one thing that maybe instructors should be aware of, or, just keep in the back of their mind? Because, yes, while they are high school teachers, this is a college class, and we want to make sure the students are meeting the rigor and getting everything that they need. So is there any like maybe best practice or just something that they should be aware of that you've seen elsewhere that when properly leveraged really makes a powerful impact?
Oh, that's a good question. Some things I'm sure you all probably even have some things that you might contribute to this as you're noticing as you teach dual credit. Um, but one of the things I think a lot about as a major difference is around critical thinking, and just how much of an emphasis that is in the writing, right? It's not, in a lot of ways, I think a lot about how we want people to write, not just to like write or speak on a topic as if like it's just information they got from somewhere else, right? We're wanting them to leverage the information they're learning and then using that to really springboard into like how are they now thinking differently about this topic, about those ideas, right? Right, we don't want them to focus so much on like finding a right answer, right, as finding, recognizing that like all this information can be very nuanced, and that they're finding their path through a perspective and utilizing multiple ideas within that, and kind of coming to new conclusions based off of, as they research for a speech or as they research for a paper, right? And how we want them to recognize that. Are there, I almost want to throw it back out to them, Mark. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah,
I forget.
by all means,
I
it's
mean,
supposed to be a dialogue. So
things you all are thinking about, like as like major differences as you think about the way you're approaching your high school students before versus teaching dual credit?
I would think I'll go ahead and mute myself.
thank you, Jeff.
I think the difference is like if a student is enrolled in dual credit, they want to be here. And so I think like that is, as a high school teacher, like motivation is kind of most of the battle anymore. And so like to have dual credit kids that like want that more, to want to seek more, I think certainly makes our lives a little bit easier. I would say that's the largest difference I've discovered. But again, I've only been doing this for a couple months. It's the start of this year.
Well, welcome aboard. Does anyone else have any other thoughts to Rachel's?
I do here. Andrew Marine at Mooresville High School.
And Andrew, you did this in the spring, didn't you? If I remember right, were you part of
Yeah.
our discipline dialogue? So welcome back. It's good to see you again.
It's a mindset thing for me. I don't consider this ENGL 111 course, even though it is dual credit. I tell the students on day one, yes, you're getting high school credit, but we're going for the higher prize. And so it's a total mindset shift. When they come into the classroom, they're in a college course on a high school campus. And they refer to me as Professor Marine. That's not an ego thing. It is a matter of making sure that we are going for that higher prize. And so they don't even think of it as a high school course. It's not. It's a college course that they're getting high school credit. And if you have that mindset, that changes everything for them. And so I enjoy being a college professor on a high school campus. That's what I do. And so those standards are there, not just the high school standards. I'm focusing on the COR, and that's where we build it from. So, and they're compatible. It's just for the student's mindset, it's got to be at the college level.
And also keeping that in mind, something that's somewhat related to that is, as all of you are English or COMM faculty, the college oftentimes needs additional part-time adjunct instructors or adjunct professors to help out, whether it's online with online courses or maybe on campus over the summer or anything like that. If you're teaching a dual credit class, you meet our credentialing standards. So, you check off that box right there. So when you have your site visit or you're working with your program chair, don't be afraid to ask if you're, looking for something to do over the summer or maybe teach an extra class, each semester in the evenings or something like that. You're under no obligation to do so, but oftentimes we're looking for extra faculty, especially if you're on the comm side. I know like over the summer, we were really trying to find every comm person we could to teach online courses for us through like Crossing the Finish Line and Free Summer and the other things like that. And it was really tight to make sure we could get everyone served. So all that to say, keep that in mind if you're thinking about additional opportunities or other things that you might want to do. We have a good number of our program chairs who at one time were high school teachers or kind of started off on the high school side and worked their way over to Ivy Tech. So, I mean, even that's how I started after 10 years with, in the public school system. Okay, so next, we've gotten some questions about completions and, how it fits into, certificates or technical certificates. I will say for the English and COMM, it's kind of straightforward. The main thing is with the Indiana College Core. That's a big push. You've probably heard about it from your administrators or stuff that comes out from the Department of Education or the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. It's a big push from the state for all of that. I would say, especially for our English faculty members, one thing to consider if you are not doing this, something that could really help your school get closer towards the Indiana College Core would be if you're offering English 111 in a full year format, consider splitting that up into 2 courses, English 111 in the fall and maybe like English 215. That's probably the most common one in the spring semester. So that way your students, instead of getting 3 credit hours, end up getting 6 credit hours and can help check off some of those boxes towards the Indiana College Core. Now, you're under no obligation to have to do that or anything like that, but it is some low-hanging fruit for a school to consider as they're working towards the Indiana College Core. Also, for a lot of our different technical certificates on the CTE side, so, think like whether it's like an IT program or welding or ag or other things like that, usually the technical certificate has 2 or 3 liberal arts courses as part of it. So English is a very common one that students have to complete. So it is our English 111 is our largest dual credit offering across the state, but it's very important for all those pathways. But do think about that especially for the Indiana College Core, splitting that up into 2 courses, one in the fall and one in the spring. Next, I'm going through all of this. Rachel, is there any sort of, maybe online resources or textbooks or anything, whether it's free or if there's a cost associated with it? Of course, like the textbook stuff's a little bit more difficult now with the state law that limits how much students can be charged or school can charge for textbooks. But is there anything that you would recommend, or maybe it's just APA? Make sure every school has a copy of APA 7 in the room. I think I'm actually back over there right now.
You know what, Mark, the other thing I was thinking about, what that came up in the curriculum committee meeting that applies to English in particular, is we're currently in development for an online, like to create a shell that's an English 111 shell in Ivy Learn that would be available to any English 111 instructor. And that includes OER information because they're having to use like free textbooks out there to create something. So that is in the works. And I think there are a lot of online resources. I don't know if you all have ever explored Excelsior OWL. I love their stuff a lot as a resource. I think that, let me go find the actual link here.
And that is interesting about the online course shells for 111. I have not heard that. That's great news. Do you have any
Yeah.
idea of, like, what the time, like, is that for fall 25 potentially?
Yes, fall
Okay.
25. Yep.
Okay.
So that is the plan here. I got this as a link. I really enjoy Excelsior Online's writing. Like, it's similar to Purdue, but I actually think it's much prettier and cleaner than Purdue. I know a lot of times I'm not trying to hate on our neighbor school. Just, but they've got some really good videos and things, I think, as a really nice resource for students. I like to use them a lot. That's one of my favorites. But do you all have something that, but I'm like, well, I can help. I don't feel like we're all experts here. We're all experts in the field. Are there other resources out there that you're really loving, or things that you like to use a lot? I mean, Purdue Owl is definitely expert level, right, Catherine?
It's a little clunky now. I used it a lot for my dissertation. It's the website's a little clunky now, but it is always very helpful. Any other free resources for anyone to consider? Well, kind of in that same vein of free things that are available, do keep in mind, as a dual credit instructor, while Ivy Tech is not allowed to pay our instructors for being a dual credit instructor, the benefits that are provided to adjunct instructors are available to our dual credit instructors. So if you have taught a class for over a year, then you are eligible, or your dependents or your spouse are eligible for 2 free courses every semester. Or 6 credit hours is actually a limit. So, some of our classes are 4 or 5 hours, but you're eligible for 6 credit hours a semester. So especially if you have children that might be coming to Ivy Tech or are currently enrolled at Ivy Tech, you can use 2 classes a semester for free, so roughly $1,000 a semester that can be knocked off their tuition bill. We also offer free Microsoft Office products to all employees of the college or anyone who has an Ivy Tech email. So this, includes Word, PowerPoint, Excel. I admittedly have no idea how much the Microsoft Office suite costs if you have a personal subscription. I'm sure it's not cheap though. And so if you go into the Ivy Tech website, myiv.edu, or myiv.ivytech.edu, you can download all the Microsoft Office products. And as long as you keep teaching dual credit with Ivy Tech and have an active Ivy Tech email, you'll be able to have those products available for free. So those are a couple of things that are nice to kind of keep in the back of your mind. I do see a few things that have been put into the chat about some of these other resources. Admittedly, I am not familiar with these resources, so if anyone wants to come off mute and share or offer any other anecdotes to these options, please feel free to do so. But do check the chat for some of those free resources.
There was a little bit of confusion about whether or not Microsoft Office was available to students.
I would assume that they are. So I've not heard of a dual credit student downloading it, but they're available to our on-campus students. And the only check is that they have to have an active Ivy Tech email. So as long as they are, and I don't know how quickly like someone gets booted out of the system if they don't, because sometimes we'll have someone take a class, maybe one semester, their sophomore year, take a semester off from dual credit courses and then keep doing. I don't know if they lose access at one semester, but I would assume that they would have access to that as long as they're a dual credit student. I'll ask around. I won't get an answer while we're on the call here, but that is a good question. Just a couple of other reminders before we open it up for any Q&A that we might have. Our professional development modules were launched earlier in the semester. You do not have to have the PD done this weekend or anything like that. It's due April 1st. Rachel helped design the English and COMM PD modules for this academic year. But do keep that in mind as, Thanksgiving break, maybe you have the whole week off with your school corporation, or Christmas break, you have a week or two off there. Kind of just, we like to send out friendly reminders about that, but it is something that we have to have done before April 1st. That is an accreditation requirement. And I know the Ivy Online shell is not maybe the most ideal modality to get it done, but it's the easiest way to do it statewide for 3,000 instructors, because we can't really bring everyone to Indianapolis one day or anything along those lines. So with all that to be said, I've kind of gone through all of our questions that we have. Rachel, if there's anything else that you have thought of, please feel free to add that right now. But also we want to give everyone here 15 minutes-ish or so or less. If there are any questions from the group that you might have that you'd like to ask myself or Rachel, or just your colleagues across the state.
So I just have a question. Do you think the COMM will have the shell at some point, like you're talking about for English? Because this is my first year teaching dual credit. I'm at Brownsburg High School. And so I'm kind of creating everything from scratch myself. I have a teacher in Lafayette that's helped me. That's a friend. And so that's been very helpful. But obviously, like, I'm pulling from thin air for a semester course, that because of what was given is like 8 weeks long, and I teach 18 weeks like everyone else. And so a lot of it is just making sure that I'm, extending what needs to be the rigor. We already make a public speaking course be required for every student at my school anyway. So this is now the advanced version of that. And so I think that's just the thing. That'd be awesome to be able to see other resources for that also.
And Brian, did you, for everyone, really, and I was actually at Brownsburg yesterday, but did you end up looking at, like, in Ivy Learn, there's a place called the Commons, and like there's a place you can go look through examples of classes that people have built and look at sample assignments, look at sample things in there. That's a resource that's really open to everyone. Now, some of those resources are dependent on certain textbooks and things, but they're also, I like to go in there sometimes to just get ideas for what other people were doing in a class or how they structured it. But I'm not aware of anything coming through COMM, because part of the 111 is that we offer, and Mark, you would know better for sure, but we offer certain classes through like campuses like Ivy on our the online what's the online academy?
You're thinking
yeah. There's like certain online schools in Indiana. And so we're developing certain classes for essentially to be deployed in those. But in the reality, we talked about the fact that this is good for anyone. So we have strategized to kind of make it for this group, but also recognize that, like, really a lot of our teachers might appreciate some kind of guidance in that way as well.
Yeah, I don't think we knew that was there. So I think that's just also I don't know what I don't know, right? And so I think that's the thing. So anything is just always helpful to keep looking at. So I'll go out and look through that for sure.
Do you want?
Oh, I was just going to add, admittedly, I'd not heard about the course shell for English 111, so COMM may be out there. It also could be a situation where we see how the English course shell does before it gets rolled out to other programs. That's kind of typical operating procedure, but there might be, the COMM committee might have a different plan as well. I'd also say, for additional resources, do not feel afraid to reach out to your program chair that's helping out. They should be a great resource. And then also, your K-14 director or your Ivy Tech point of contact that you're working with, ask them if they have any other, COMM dual credit teachers that they are working with that you can help get in touch with to help build out your your curriculum for it. Also, maybe put your email in the chat. If we have some other COMM instructors, maybe someone will be very nice and reach out to you with some of those resources that they utilize as well. So don't be afraid, anyone on here to help out Brian or anyone else for that. We'd encourage as much collaboration as possible.
And Mark, do you mind if I share like my screen and just show
Oh,
like where
sure.
the Commons is in Ivy Learn for anyone who is curious
Yeah.
about like looking at these resources?
Yeah. I'm so used
Because
to Teams that I have to reorient myself to Zoom.
that's okay. I think you actually do. You've allowed me, so it's okay.
Yeah. Oh, should be good now.
So if you all go into your Ivy Learn, like you obviously have to log in with your Ivy Tech credentials, but in here you are automatically given like a course for, I know mine's going to be different because I've got a lot of other classes in here, but you're going to have like a course here that will be for, COMM 101 for this fall, and it'll be blank. Nothing will be in it, right? But if you click on this left-hand side where it says Commons, it's going to take you to this page and you can search, you can search for COMM or COMM 101 or 102 or whichever one it is. And there's going to be at least some samples that other faculty out there have shared of what they're doing in their class or what they've done in other classes. And some of them, sometimes the way I kind of judge is by like how many people downloaded the shell. Like maybe, if I'm looking over here, like 65 people checked out the shell and downloaded and looked at it. There's a COMM 101 dual credit shell that someone made in Lafayette, it looks like, and 49 people have checked that out. And it's not like you have to use it, but what you can do is if you go into one of these, the option is then you can import or download it into your class that you're probably not using for real class right now, right? You're probably using your own Schoology or Canvas for your school, but it gives you a chance to at least download and look through, the sample calendars, look down some of the speeches that they have in here, whatever that might be, right? So I just wanted to share like how to do that and look at some resources, because obviously even some of them look like have been made specifically to support our dual credit faculty. So I hope that's helpful.
And if you need a reminder on how to access all this on Ivy Learn, just remember all this is being recorded. And so we'll get this up on the YouTube page and I'll send out the YouTube link sometime next week once we get it posted on our YouTube page. So be on the lookout for that. Is there anything else from the group? Okay, well, thank you all for joining today. Big thanks to Rachel. I told her before we let everyone in the room, I have no idea how many people are going to show up on a Friday afternoon. So this is awesome. We had, I think I counted 25 people coming in and out of the meeting. So that is awesome. And also appreciate everyone putting in all these comments in the chat and, the questions we got and the collaboration. I think this is probably the best one we've had from last year and this year. It was a really great session. So props to Rachel and to everyone else on the group. If no one has any other questions, I'll dismiss class a few minutes early and wishing you all a nice weekend. Yeah. Thank you very much.